Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webcast. Don't get trapped in traditional benefit administration. Sponsored by E&I and presented by Jenny Ray Pearson of Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance and Jean Raimondi of E&I. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that this webcast has been pre-approved for HRCI credit and can also be used for SHRM credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credit. After the webcast, you will receive an email from HR.com within 1 to 2 business days. It will include the certification credit information. You can also log in to your account and go to your View My Credits page where you can see the credits you have received. If you have any questions today for our presenters or for HR.com, please type them into the Questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will follow up with you. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to our first presenter, Jean Raimondi.
Thank you, Kathy, and good morning, everyone. Yes, we're going to run through this and share it here with Jenny Ray Pearson, and we'll see if we can have a good time doing it and cover some great information. Just to start with, I want to review the agenda and give you a good overview of what we're going to look at today. We did some presenter introductions. We're going to give some more background on who we are and a little bit of some of the things that we've done. We're going to talk today about technology driving change in business, the impact of technology on HR, which I'm sure many of you are quite aware of, benefits and retention, which has become a real hot topic. Of course, the whole idea of retention in this situation of a tight labor market. Traditional benefit administration, we're going to take a high-cut look at some of that. Introduce, I think, a third option, we're going to call it, the universal plug-and-play benefits platform, and the benefits of a plug-and-play platform that we'll take a look at. The importance of offering this through a mobile app, which I think is becoming more and more obvious every day. So then toward the end here, we're going to have a success story of Northwestern's use of this type of technology and some of their experience. A little bit more on me, like was mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of E&I. We call ourselves designers of integrated benefit solutions. You can learn more on our website. And also today joining us, of course, is Jenny Ray Pearson, Field Medical Senior Specialist with Northwestern Mutual. A little more on my background. This year I had the privilege of being a panelist on the 2017 SHRM technology panel. A big focus we looked at is how artificial intelligence is changing HR. Had some really interesting presenters, and we did a lot of great research, and there's some good abstracts that have come out, or I think will be released here in the next month or so from SHRM, from all the special panelists that they had across the country. The whole world of artificial intelligence in HR is quite intriguing. I've published in the last 18 months or so a number of articles to give you some of my background, where I'm coming from. HR Tech, I did an article on Bring Your Benefits to Life. Workforce Magazine, The Power of Plug and Play Benefits Platform, some of what we're going to be looking at today. HR Tech Outlook, another one, Mobilize for Millennial Retention. Benefits Pro, how brokers can prepare for the millennial surge. Employee Benefit News, traditional benefit communications methods do workers a disservice, and some other ones on the mobile broker and so on. I've had a chance to, in 2014, publish a book on benefits called Beyond Benefits. It's really about the power of benefit integration. Big focus of the book is how benefits, for the most part through the years, have operated on a siloed kind of individual situation. In today's world, there's a lot of opportunity to connect them and have benefits operate as an integrated package and not no separate silos. Jenny Ray, go ahead, give a little overview of some of your background here.
Great. Thanks so much, Jean. My name is Jenny Ray Pearson, and I run the medical plan for the Northwestern Mutual Financial Representatives. Just to give you a little background on Northwestern Mutual, some of you may have heard of us. We were recently named a Fortune 100 company. We are headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we are a mutually owned company. The group that I work with are our full-time financial representatives. There are over 6,000 of them scattered throughout all 50 states. We have 79 network offices and then some smaller district offices nationwide that our financial representatives work out of. So we've got a pretty geographically dispersed population. One of the interesting things about our population is that they are all commission-based. So, and they're not technically employees. They don't have a direct employer-employee relationship with Northwestern Mutual. They're actually contracted to some of the management people in our financial representative pool. So that's kind of interesting. But despite that, we do offer them a full suite of benefits, including medical and retirement and everything like that. Back to you, Gene.
All right, thank you. Just on a note of interest too, the building that's pictured there in the slide, I believe just opened about a month ago, and I had the privilege a couple of weeks ago to actually get a chance to tour that, and it's quite impressive, real state-of-the-art offering of office space in the Milwaukee area there. Okay, technology driving change in business. The word that comes to mind for me is exponential. I've done this throughout the slideshow here, the one word to kind of sum it up. Quick adjective description of it, of increase, becoming more and more rapid. I think all of us in today's world realize the exponential growth of technology in our world. Just in the last 50 years, the line in this graph is starting to head towards straight up. You know, in the, 400 years before that, it's, been quite flat. So the idea that technology, grows exponentially, we're all aware of, but it really is accelerating at a rate, especially in the HR area and some of the services that are offered at a very high pace. Bill Gates said information technology and businesses are becoming inextricably interwoven. I don't think anyone can talk meaningful about one without talking about the other. And I'm sure you've heard this too many times as well, where people say, all businesses are becoming technology businesses. Whether it's farming or industry or any business, technology drives a huge component of what they do and the competitive advantage that they have to offer. Also from Mark Benioff, he's that guy that started that little company, Salesforce, that most of us are aware of for one reason or another. Of course, the only constant in the technology industry is change. And he should know, and that is one of the most successful in the cloud startups basically on the planet. So, the impact of technology on HR, let's take a look at this. The word that comes to mind is tsunami. I had the chance to go to the last 3 HR tech conferences that have been held. I'll give you some statistics on those here in a minute. The type of new services and benefits and technological offerings are just like a tidal wave coming into the HR field. HR technology is undergoing one of the most disruptive periods it has seen in decades from Deloitte, 2016. Investors plunged over $2 billion in HR tech from CB Insights. I actually think that's probably on the low side. I see some companies that are getting $500 million in investment just to change the technological offerings that they have. 3/4 of all organizations list being digital to HR as a top priority, bringing digital to HR as a top priority. Workforce Magazine 2017. Digital incentives revolutionize the HR space and employee experience. We're all aware of that. We're seeing it more and more. It has a huge impact on connecting to our people and what HR has to offer. At the conference, like I mentioned, I just took a quick look back in 2013, the HR Tech Conference this year. It's being held this month, actually, in Las Vegas. They had 4,300 attendees. This year, they're expecting nearly 9,000 attendees at the conference. It's growing in size and interest, and of course, just people looking at all the latest and greatest that's coming down the pike. The HR Tech Conference 2016, I want to tell a little story. I was out there. There was an individual who was one of the panelists, and I went in to listen to it. It was about onboarding software and all the offerings that are out there. And basically, the panelists said that they brought out a new onboarding system a year ago. He said they were, very impressed with it. It worked great. He said he was at the conference for 2 days, and he's actually seen one that he believes is a better fit for his company, and he's looking at transitioning his onboarding software to that one already. So, it was kind of ironic that they were there to talk about it, and he's seen some new services or technology that could better fit his needs. The impact of tech, I always like to say, ride the wave. HR needs to position itself to take advantage of this tidal wave of change. I just think it's going to be exponential and continue to accelerate and offer more and more of the next best thing out there. Let's take a look at benefits and retention for a minute, because I think in today's world with the, talent shortage out there and all the, fact that there's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, and then the labor market is getting tighter and tighter, and that competitive stance employers have for it needs to continue to increase. The one word that comes to mind for me is paramount, which is an adjective that says chief in importance or impact, supreme, preeminent, a point of paramount significance. Why is that so? I'd like to take a quick poll here and just kind of get a chance to get you involved. I'd like to ask this before we get to some of the statistics on it. Is retention an issue for your organization? Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, Jean, the first poll has been launched. We'll just give it about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like most of the audience has voted. I'll close that off and share the results with you.
All right, so 67% said yes, 22% no, and 11% unsure. Well, that fits pretty much a lot of the national statistics. Actually, around 80% in a MetLife recent study ranked retention as the top objective of their HR incentives. We'll take a look at some statistics, but I'll steal some of my thunder. It's the first time in my 30 years of working in human resource where the retention concern has outweighed the concern for healthcare costs. And we all know that's still at the top of the list in many ways, but the retention has finally risen to the point where it's got its own limelight on it and a lot of attention poured into it. So using benefits to retain employees is a top objective, surpassing their concern for controlling healthcare costs just kind of really hits me because it's been healthcare costs are still a major concern, but always at the top of, controlling costs when it comes to benefit offerings. 61% of employees listed better than average benefits as a top workplace differentiator. So when they're looking at the reason an employer has an advantage from a differentiator standpoint, benefits are still a big part of that. So when it comes to benefits and retention, this is one of my favorites. Workers who are extremely or very satisfied with their benefits are 6 times more likely to stay with their employer than those workers who are dissatisfied with their benefits program. And today's world, even if that was double, that would be a big statement, but 6 times is huge. Employees who are more satisfied with their benefits are more likely to be satisfied with their jobs, less likely to look for a job in the next 12 months. So the summation from my end is that benefits make a difference. I want to tell a quick story here of one recently. I was talking to an employer, actually in Florida. We were going over retention and benefits, and what she mentioned to me was an HR executive said that one of their employees left their employee for another company, and during the exit interview, they asked, of course, why, and one of the big reasons she cited was the fact that she felt they had a better benefit package than what they were offering. Kind of the irony, she said about 6 months later, she ran into that employee in the grocery store, asked her how the new job was going, and the employee at that point said to her, actually, I've got to admit something to you. Their benefits there, now that I've gotten a good close look at them, are not as good as the benefits that I left with you guys. Her point was that she was sad that they lost one of their top people over a misconception about the comparison of the value of the two benefit packages, and that theirs was actually either as good or better than the one that she went to, as one of her reasons. I just think that speaks a lot to the fact that benefits need to be communicated and connected better, and there's a lot of area of improvement for HR to better, get people to understand their benefits, know what they are, and the depth of them. Many employers offer a very robust package, and it's often a big difficulty to get them to understand that package. Another employer that I was working with said, the good news, the bad news about our services here. He goes, the good news is we have a lot of benefits and services for our people. And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, the bad news is we have a lot of benefits and services for our people. He said they don't grasp the totality of what we try to do for them here, and they often miss the opportunity to use them. So, of course, the obvious one, benefits matter, especially when it comes to retention. It's very important that the people understand them, connect with them, and really have a way to use them to, support their need during that time. We're aware of that. I just think there's a lot of innovative new technologies that are coming down the road to better connect people to their benefits and their services. Traditional benefit administration. I want to take, like I said in the beginning, kind of a high-cut look at Ben admin systems that I see a lot of HR really drawn to. And over the years, I think they really fall into an area where I think they feel somewhat trapped into picking one of these two offerings. In this case, we're using it as a verb, to catch by stratagem or trickery. So let's take a look at a couple of the basic offerings that HR has, from a Ben administration system standpoint. Option one is the one-stop shop. I see that a lot. HR will often work with one vendor, often a large either payroll or healthcare company, and they'll provide multiple benefits and services through that one-stop shop vendor and use I call a vertically integrated model to do that, where they actually have a majority of their benefits and services through that vendor and have that vendor work with integrating and connecting them to each other and working those benefits in a communication standpoint with their people. The other kind of high cut is the single suite software systems. There's a ton of them out there. They're evolving like wildfire. There'll be a bunch of big vendors at this HR Tech Conference here next week out in Las Vegas. Of course, they're often one software provider that offers multiple benefit modules. Many of us are aware of that. They like to take a hire to retire approach to the benefit administration system, everything from recruiting and job search to onboarding to the learning management systems and so on. Online enrollment, of course, in the cloud is huge. And these two systems are often a lot of the approach that I think HR looks at for, increasing their efficiency around the benefit administration. I want to look at a third option that I think is evolving, and we're seeing more and more of it. I think it's more that what they call universal plug-and-play benefits platform, integrating all existing HR solutions, benefits, services, software into a single application. And we're going to talk more, of course, about some of the obvious connections of benefits and using phone apps. This third option, of what I like to call it a plug-and-play approach through a mobile app, is taking the existing benefits and services an employer may have and using this option to integrate those from a software standpoint. So I like to say it's basically software that integrates all benefits and software solutions, whether they have their paid time off balances, their FSA balance, their online enrollment system or software, onboarding software, learning management systems, and so on. These can be connected through an app and offered in a unified kind of hub approach to the end user, to the employee. I want to also say in today's world, too, with all the new applications coming down the road, there's Google Angular framework, and there's a lot of new development that's really making it much more friendly to take separate systems and connect them than it ever did before. A lot of that new development is really putting out a common platform that employers and other people can set up APIs for, application program interfaces, to connect these systems and get them talking together, working together, and working as more of a single source sign-on. Somebody can actually unplug, let's say, the onboarding component of what they have for their software. If they find, like that gentleman at the panelist I mentioned in last year's HR Tech Conference, and then plug in a different onboarding software that better fits their needs or better fits their budget. Often with software, as it develops, there's a certain commodity to the newest and latest software that lowers the price and better fits a budget for many of the employers. So really, from a high-cut standpoint, again, we like to call it that plug-and-play approach. It's really having separate but integrated software, services, and benefits plugged into a platform that gives that freedom to unplug it and plug in another one and have them connected in a way that the end user can find a synergy between those services. Let's take a look at the word that comes to mind here for me from this is, I like to call it freedom. I think it's a chance for us in the HR world to use a lot of the different newest and latest software offerings out there. The state of being at liberty rather than confinement or under physical restraint. I think we need to be in a position where we have a benefit administration system that we can move quickly with a lot of agility, and make the changes that best fit our company strategy or our people's and HR needs. Here's something I like to say, no one company can out-innovate the free market. I'm amazed that every time I go to many of these conferences and see some of the new services or even the new technology, like I said, even on the HR Tech panel, looking at a lot of the artificial intelligence that's coming down the road to assist HR and to helping them be better at the transactional part of what we offer, to really get them more and more into the strategical offering and analytics of a lot of the data that's coming down the road. So the idea that really there's so many new companies out there and so many new services and so much investment in technology that no one company really can out-innovate the free market. And I think a lot of times with some of the earlier admin approach with using like a single suite software or even a one-stop shop vendor, it's hard for them to have the changes and the innovations and the needs that many of the free market companies can come up with. I want to give a little example here. I looked up something for this. In 2014, Apple acquired 24 companies in just 18 months. It was on an online, like TechCrunch magazine. The point I want to make here is even, you talk to people from the, they think about Steve Jobs and Apple, and of course being the most valued company on the planet, and they are also recognized as one of the most innovative tech companies, that ever existed. They still can't out-innovate the free market. Of course, their approach when there's something out there that better fits their needs or better fits their competitive edge that they need, they acquire that next best thing or that technology, and it's a big approach by them to keep with the latest and the greatest out there to help Apple, of course, be competitive in their space of technology. This universal plug-and-play freedom platform, here's just a little summation on some of it. I think we can capitalize on the latest and greatest innovations in pricing for HR solutions, gives that agility, like I said, and the speed to make those changes and to quickly unplug and plug in that best fits, like I said, from pricing and best fit for the company. Rapidly and efficiently upgrade any and all service solutions without disrupting the platform. I think that's a big part of this third option too. Once this platform, this plug-and-play platform through an app is established, I think the end user can get familiar with the navigation of it, the feel of it, and the consistency of where the information is. And then as the services and software change, the platform remains consistent and the end user has a better connected experience with it. And I think that's an important part of it too, is keeping that navigation and that feeling of that connection to that platform, consistent over a period of time once the employee population gets used to using it. I have part of my opinion on this is the vendor providing the platform should not deliver any of the HR services. What I've seen in the past a couple of times now is employers will start to use an app or a plug-and-play kind of approach to an application, a phone, mobile application, and then they decide to change vendors. Let's say they change their medical plan and they were using the medical plan app as a basis for a lot of their connectivity to their services. And then when they change medical plan, of course, the app goes with it, and they have to start over with a different one. So I think from a freedom standpoint, like I mentioned earlier, I think the best delivery of that is not to have that app or that platform be delivered from a vendor that delivers any of the services. Therefore, as you change the services, again, that platform remains consistent. Of course, I think, and we'll look at this a little bit, that type of approach better connects benefits to your people. Like I mentioned in that little example, that story earlier, you know, if they're not connected to the benefits, they really don't know all that's being done to, you know, provide support to them in their age and stage at the workplace. A lot of times they underestimate that and can often turn over, not knowing what the robust package they have offers to them and how it's there to support them in that position. I think it represents more than just benefits. I think if it's done correctly, this plug-and-play platform can start to reflect the entire company and its culture. I think that's a big part of it. As it's developed, I've seen employers develop it and change it where it starts to have a, you know, reflection of the culture that they feel is important, and actually builds in that communication in there that goes, again, kind of beyond the benefits and services that are offered through their organization. The employee experience is being talked about more and more, and I think the key is integrating all benefits and services to drive that experience. I really think it's important to, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, have all the benefits and services be connected, not have them be siloed, not have them be separate, and to really work to build that experience that the employee has with connecting to those benefits. So, of course, just to kind of repeat it, the benefits platform should include all benefits, any services that are not traditional benefits that an employer offers, HR software, whether it's a single suite, software offerings or even separate but integrated software offerings. Of course, corporate events. I'm seeing a lot of companies putting their events on there to announce them, even doing push notifications through the app to let them know when those events are coming up and so they can better connect to them. Even events like when open enrollment's coming, who is available to what, during what time for that open enrollment, flu shots, anything like that. Policies, culture information, executive announcements, and more. That app can start to develop that look and feel that an organization wants to reflect who they are and the culture they feel is important, for connecting to their strategy. Going mobile. Some of this is kind of obvious. I'll just go through, a couple of these quickly here. But the word that comes to mind for this one for entertainment purposes is slam dunk. When it comes to going mobile, I think, something regarded as certain to occur or be accomplished. Again, most of you are aware of some of this, but, American workers check their phones about 8 billion times per day. I don't know how they added that up, but I know if they were, I think there's some teenagers I know that come close to that. But the idea is that it's obviously become part of our everyday life and a real, connectivity to a lot of the information and even social connectivity that we use today. Nearly a quarter of employees already prefer to use their mobile devices to access their benefits. That was from a 2015 study from Prudential. I know that that's accelerated since then, and it's much more. Many of them prefer to have it on their phone. A quick poll here, just to break it up some. What percentage of your workforce do you estimate is 35 and under? So please take a moment and just give us a couple of responses, then we'll keep it moving.
Okay, the poll has been launched, and we'll leave it open about 30 more seconds.
All right, thanks, Kathy.
Okay, we're going to close the poll and I will share the responses.
Okay, let me take a quick look here. So it says about 44% are 20 and the 25% of 35 and under, 46, 50%, and 10% are 75% plus. Well, that 10% I'll say actually is a reflection of the future when it comes to going mobile. There's a lot of estimates and a lot of studies, but a lot of them have narrowed it down to the fact that by 2025, which isn't far away as we think, millennials will represent about 75% of the workforce. So I was at a conference. I go to a lot of conferences. I was at a conference, and this gentleman stood up front. I'll give him credit, and he was in front of about 3,000 or 4,000 people at lunch, and he stood up front and he held up his hand and he said, "For those of you who can't see this in the back," he said, "I'm holding up my smartphone." And he said this statement. He said, "Because if you have people who are 35 or younger that work in your workforce," he said, "if it's not on their phone, it doesn't exist." And a slight exaggeration, he got a big laugh out of that. And at the same time, more and more, obviously, as time goes by, the slam dunk approach is if it's not on their phone, it doesn't exist. And many ways right now, of course, and it seems like it's going to continue to only accelerate, that's the source of their information and their connectivity to it. So it only makes sense, like I opened up with, that having it, your benefits, services, corporate culture, all of that integrated into a mobile app is, like I said, somewhat of a slam dunk. It's inevitable that that's where it's going. To support that, I think the mobile plug-and-play approach, I think there's other HR services that are often offered out there. I want to mention just quickly. We're not here to really review them in detail, but a benefit information line, employee service line, and so on. Many HR has many different descriptions of that, but there should be a good information line to back up this mobile plug-and-play approach. There still are, and even millennials often will still want to call and talk to somebody, either in making decisions around their benefit selection or having questions about their benefits that they have. Of course, there's other generations in the workforce that truly are looking to get somebody on the phone that they can actually have a human discussion with about their benefits. And then, of course, on the other right-hand side here, the benefit information portal. With today's responsive web design, it's becoming enormously popular with a lot of applications. Pretty much anything that can be on the mobile can be put onto, of course, a web browser and responded through an information portal. So I believe, in my opinion, what I've seen work best is when the mobile application and how that looks and feels and navigates is the same or extremely similar to whatever the web portal offering is. I think that's a great support to that plug-and-play approach and really gives that kind of total connections to those knowledge points that people often turn to, for information or interaction about any of their benefit services or, corporate messaging. Okay, before I transition to Jenny Ray here, I want to bring up a little cartoon that hit me. I saw a while back, and it says breaking barriers for new technology. I mean, there's always new technology out there, and there are barriers in the way for reaching out to introduce and embrace that new technology. But here this gentleman at this desk has introduced a new idea on technology, and the gentleman's response is this. He said, "This is really an innovative approach, but I'm afraid we can't consider it. It's never been done before." And I think there's a lot of that almost from a pushback standpoint. Some of the new and the latest and greatest does take an ability to embrace that technology and look at it and how it'll work. But there will be that constant stream of that new technology, and I think it takes a real, kind of open mind to embrace that and to look at how it can benefit what we do and what we need to do for our organizations, supporting their strategy and our people. Okay, we'd like to transition it here to Jenny Ray and have her talk a little bit about Northwestern's experience with this and some of the detail that she has around their organization. So, Jenny Ray.
Great. Thank you so much, Jean. Okay, so at Northwestern Mutual, I've been in this role for about 3.5 years, and I very quickly realized that, as most organizations are experiencing, we don't have a huge HR team. We are a small but mighty team, we call ourselves, and to support all of our financial representatives throughout the country was becoming a bit of a challenge, and especially with medical related issues. Medical is very emotional. Somebody's going through something, so either they or their family members are experiencing something very difficult. And so it's a very emotional and very complicated topic to address. And what we were finding is we went through a situation where we had condensing of a lot of our call centers, and the one thing that we identified that is pretty universal across all organizations is medical. And we just didn't quite have the ability to support the complex medical questions and situations and scenarios that we were encountering. So very quickly started looking for a solution that would better serve our financial representatives. Because the one thing you have to keep in mind with them is that time is money for them. So they don't really have time during the day to be sitting on the phone with their insurance carrier or trying to, sort out a prescription issue. And so it was really important for us that they were able to have some support in a number of different ways, both in medical advocacy and just, helping them understand their benefits. Because one of the other challenges that we have is that we don't have centralized HR people in every office. So with all of our offices all over the country, we don't have anybody in each office. We don't have a single person who can act as an HR representative or liaison for us. So it's really hard for us to get information out to all of them. And we would hear a lot of times, well, somebody in my office told me that this is how it worked. So we're kind of trying to combat that challenge as well. So, when we started looking at, what possibly could be a solution, we didn't really know, and we came across E&I and the solution that we came up with. If you don't mind moving ahead 2 slides, Jean,
Sure,
that would be great.
So next slide, and I'll click it.
Okay. You can go ahead. I think we can go to the next slide because I'm excited to talk about the solution. So, one of the things that we loved most about the solution that E&I provided with us is that it was very customizable, and it was also very friendly to our population. So we've got about 50% of our financial representatives are millennials, and then 25% are kind of in the 35 to 50 range, and then 55 range, and then 25% of our population is 55 plus. And so we've got a pretty wide range of workers right now, and so we needed solutions that were different, because our 55 plus population loves to pick up the phone and call us no matter what. They'll call us for everything and everything. Our millennials, we never talk to them. We hardly ever hear from them, and they'll email us, or, they need something, like Jean said, if it's not on their phone, it doesn't exist to them. So we really needed a solution that would cover everybody in the range of our population. So that was one of the biggest things we found about their balanced benefits program, was that it was appealing to everybody. It had a number of different features, so they could chat with someone through the app. They could pick up the phone and call someone live 24/7, and that was huge for us too, because the thing that you have to remember about benefits is that benefits don't just, medical situations or questions about benefits don't just pop up from 9 to 5. So the fact that they have 24/7 availability, that's something that we couldn't even provide at Northwestern Mutual. So, that right in and of itself was a huge improvement for our financial representatives, because when your child has an earache at 1 a.m., you can't call the home office and get some information. And so the fact that they have the ability to talk to someone if they need to at any point in the day, or after they're done servicing their clients, that was a huge advantage for us. So we really, really appreciated that. And that was something that Even our financial representatives, they found tremendous value in it. And if you can go to the next slide, Jean, that would be great. Let me tell you, our population is very quick to tell us when things are not going well, and they're not very great about giving us compliments when things are going well. But what we found from implementing our partnership with E&I is that our financial representatives were extremely happy. We have a lot of, they've now taken on all of our calls about medical benefits. Like I said, they do our health advocacy, and we've had a lot of people utilize the benefit. Calling them, chatting with them, emailing them, whatever the case might be, we've had a tremendous utilization of their services, and we really look at them as an extension of us. They're a partner with us. They're a true partner, and that is something that our financial representatives are embracing, is that, it's not just a third party that we outsource the information or the work to. This is truly, they're in a partnership with us, and they're just as invested in finding a solution and assisting the members as we are. We just don't have the capacity to do it ourselves. So, we find that, again, because time is money for our financial representatives, they've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by having that true partnership and by having someone who will say, okay, I'll take this on and I'll figure it out for you so that you don't have to spend all the time doing it. And that's been really tremendous. And we're really starting to see, we're getting less comments about, well, somebody in my office told me this, because we have one consistent resource for them. And that's made a huge difference for us. So, we're slowly but steadily making progress in some of our objectives to improve communication and increase our engagement, which in the end leads to better retention. So I'm pretty excited about that. And if you don't mind going to the next slide, Jean, I think this slide speaks for itself, because like I said, our financial representatives are very quick to point out when things aren't going well. But we have heard more compliments about the Balanced Benefits program than any other program that we offer. And so it is really truly heartwarming to see that they are really embracing it and that they're loving it. And we have these testimonials, and E&I gets them, we get them, our vice presidents in the company get them, so we're getting a lot of really good feedback. And that, to me, speaks volumes for what we were able to accomplish through this partnership. So we're pretty thrilled about that. So, Jean, I think I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thanks, Jenny Ray. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, just to do a little summation here, and then we'll wrap it up and then see if there's any questions that myself or Jenny Ray can field, and then we'll continue from there. So, from the power of universal plug-and-play platform, some of the summary statements here. I like to look at it from all benefits and services, HR software and solutions are integrated together on a single platform. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's more software that integrates software and solutions. So I think that's an important aspect to this kind of third alternative. The other one is that, what I mentioned, the ability to rapidly upgrade in order to always provide your employees with the best benefits software solutions, resulting in increased retention. And of course, a big focus in today's, difficult shortage of talented labor out there. I think also to mention on that point too, that I think it really puts the plug and play approach, puts the HR in a position to find the best fit software and solutions for their organization. Obviously technology, like we looked at, is driving change at a very exponential rate. And a lot of the strategy and approach that in the businesses or employers are having change, on an annual basis. And so to continually have that agility to change the software or to change the benefit offerings and that quick and fast plug and play approach, I think it puts HR in a position to better support the exponential change in strategy that most employers have to do given today's, rapid change environment. The flexibility, the plug and play, the best fit, like I said, I think that's a big part of it. What I'd like to look at is, embrace technology and never be trapped again in some traditional benefit administration. I think there's, a third option out there that I see being offered more and more. And that's that option of that, integration of separate solutions, integration of separate software, that integration of all the benefits and services that an employer has to offer into that mobile connectivity to their people. Obviously, smartphones and the mobile approach is a big part of everybody's world and will only continue to increase from that. So I think from an HR standpoint, that ability to better connect people to those benefits and services is a big part of where we get the value of the large investment that many employers make in benefits services aimed at, retaining and even recruiting, the top talent that's necessary to move, their organization's strategy ahead. So, all right. So thank you very much. That's our presentation today. I can turn it back over to Kathy. If there's questions, I believe we can text those in, and Jenny Ray and or myself can give you some more information on that. So thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance today.
Hi, Jean. We do have time for a few questions that have come in. Diane wants to know, tell me a bit more about option 3, the plug and play platform. How does option 3 differ from option 2?
Okay, well, just for a refresher, option 2 I laid out in the slideshow from HighCut is really that single suite software solution that's very popular, and there's huge providers out there. Some of them even gone public. I won't mention any names. Many of you know those. But the single suite software solution, I think the difference of the plug and play is that it doesn't take one, software company's software. It takes different separate and software solutions and then mixes them together through some of that stuff I mentioned before, single source sign-on, API feeds, and really connects those separate pieces together that better fit that organization's needs. I think the single suite software solutions, they have different modules often that respond, to an employer's needs. I think that as other modules come out, in the free market, like I mentioned, I think it's tough for them to often, integrate those into those systems because they are written pretty much as one platform from start to finish. I think the difference in the plug and play is it just gives a lot more freedom to look at all the software, in this case solutions, or even how to connect them to the benefits in a more open environment. So again, I think the difference is it's software that integrates software, with the option 2 is that single suite software system all connected from one written platform.
Thank you. Another question here. How can the app reflect company culture?
Well, I'll take that, Jenny Ray. I'm thinking of an actual example. We had one employer, I'll say, that they want to encourage their employees to become part of their local, environment. They want them to mix into the community and do things with the community. So how it can reflect the culture is that this employer said, for every hour, or for so many hours of community involvement, they would actually reward the employee with some paid time off to encourage people to become part of their community and to, represent the company in the community. That's the culture they were looking for. Well, what I'll say is that kind of created a little bit of a nightmare for HR because people were calling in, well, I did a walk for 5 hours. Could you record that? And they would send texts in or copies of community service stuff that they had done. Some of them were even dropping off scraps of paper, they said, in the HR office saying, here, there's 3 hours, add that onto my total. So what was done is the app actually software was developed to let people have that community connection, in those hours to the paid time off. And then actually an API feed set up so it would go right back into adding it into their paid time off through their payroll vendor. So I think that app started to show some of what the other employees were doing. It actually helped support a better system to, connecting them to those hours and the paid time off, and obviously automated it to get rid of some of the transactional approach that HR got stuck with when they introduced that. And I think it really starts to, in this case, reflect the culture the company's looking for. They, right on the app, that shows how they want you to be involved with the community and how it's part of what they're looking for to, better represent their company and the different communities they work in. So that's one example. It just comes to mind how it can, be used to reflect that company culture and how, it can better get that point across to their employee base.
Thank you. Another question here. Are there companies with less than 100 employees using this type of product?
Yes, there are. I can answer that. And in fact, I think that's one of the areas where it's starting to have some of the most usefulness. There are companies where, they'll take an an online enrollment system, even an onboarding software, and then integrate them into that offering of that mobile offering so that they can, better connect their people. Some of the smaller companies, in my opinion anyway, really either don't need some of that full, single suite software offering or often can't afford it. And so yes, we and I've seen other vendors, develop this type of approach for, even companies under 50. So definitely 100 or less.
Thank you. Okay, how do you address concerns about privacy and confidentiality of online info flow by using mobile nightmare scenarios like Equifax, for example?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of cybersecurity concerns out there, and rightfully so. And Equifax is the latest, splash on the media with it. How do you address it? Well, the mobile application can be set up as usual with anything else with a sign-on and a password. It can even have protected information on there if somebody is texting information that's medically, private information. That information can be, only opened up with a password from the actual user. So there's that. I think any of the vendors that set up this type of system to go to kind of that high cut, they need to, of course, there's all kinds of levels of cybersecurity processes they should have in place, like SOC 2 is a big recognized approach for vendors to make sure, or to try to limit, I should say, breach of their information. So yeah, I just think there's a lot of stuff in place that can be done to protect that, and even be careful on how it is shared. But that's definitely something that needs to be looked at, especially in today's world. So any of the vendors that you work with, they should have a documented approach to some certification for cybersecurity, as well as even cybersecurity insurance, which is becoming more and more prevalent out there as well.
Thank you. We have time for one last question. What languages does the app offer?
Well, I can't speak for others. Our app is it can be used in both iOS, the Apple or Android systems. In today's world, you really have to offer both if that's what they're asking. The application that it's developed in is responsive web design. They do a lot with. I'm not the tech side of it, but I know like I mentioned earlier, they're using a lot more with some of the Google framework, Angular language to build a lot of the connectivity between the different applications. So if somebody has an onboarding application that's from, a software that's separate from the online enrollment, I know there's that type of development platform that's used to tie the two together. So it's either a single source sign-on, or like I said, if you enter employee demographics in one area, they're fed into the other software systems in the appropriate places. So, but back to where I started, I think, yeah, it's obviously available on, Apple and Android platforms from a mobile standpoint.
Well, I want to thank Jean Raimondi and Jenny Ray Pearson for presenting this very informative webcast today, and thank you to ENI for sponsoring. Just a few reminders for the attendees. If you would like to view this webcast again, the archive recording will be available on site for up to 7 days, and you can also download the slides. If your webcast credits are stored in your HR.com account, watch for your email to arrive within 1 to 2 business days. It will contain the certification credit information. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a moment and fill out the exit survey that will appear on your screen. This concludes today's webcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you.